Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I want to talk about self-care and self-care in a holistic sense. So the different types of self-care that you need to make sure you're taking care of in order to really have a peaceful, balanced, and happy life. Before we get into the video, I do want to apologize for the fact that the lighting is so weird, but I'm doing this at night when my kid is asleep, so I have more freedom and time and peace to do it. So this is the best lighting that you're gonna get. So going on with self-care, I want to make sure that you understand the different types of self-care because I want you to pour into yourself and to work on yourself in a holistic sense. So it's not just one part of self-care, it's not just feeling good, but there's also the physical, the mental, and the emotional, as well as the spiritual part of self-care. And we want to hit all of those areas when we practice self-care in order for us to feel good and to feel content with our lives. First up, we have physical self-care. So in order to function well and really practice good self-care with your physical sense, you need to make sure that you're eating healthy, that you're exercising, and that you're taking care of your ADLs, which are activities of daily living. So what does ADLs mean? It just means that you're showering, you're brushing your teeth, you're combing your hair, you're changing every day, and that you're actually putting a little bit of effort when it comes to the way you look, the way you present yourself to others. For some, this may be super obvious, this may be just something that's already in your routine, but there are others that do struggle with this, whether it be because of depression. One of the signs of depression is a disheveled look. So if you're not showering, if you're not brushing your teeth, if you're not taking care of how you look and present yourself to others, that could be a sign of depression. Well, now I'm not saying to go get all glam and done up every single day, but you do want to have a standard when it comes to looking clean, looking presentable, and looking like you care about yourself. So maybe getting up a little bit early in order for you to be able to put some time into picking out a nicer outfit, because if you look good, you also feel good. So looking good and working on yourself when it comes to the way you present yourself is an important aspect of physical self-care. So along with exercising and eating well and working on your ADLs, you also need to make sure that you are sleeping well. Now, this is something I struggle with a lot because I tend to go to sleep very late because I always keep myself busy. But it's important to understand that you do need a certain amount of sleep in order for you to function well. So you can put an alarm to go to sleep early. You can make sure that you do everything you need to do at night, so maybe you can sleep in a little bit later in the morning. So really being conscious of your sleep, because that is a huge part of your self-care, and you want to make sure that you are aware of that and you're conscious of it. Another big part of physical self-care, it comes to drinking water. We always need to drink more water. Be conscious of how much water you take in. So these are a few things to think about when it comes to your physical self-care. Number 2 is emotional and psychological self-care. These are really big, and I think this is what people really focus on when it comes to self-care. To truly take care of your mental and emotional state, you need to understand yourself and create self-awareness. That means journaling, spending time alone, focusing on your thought, processing your feelings. Those are all important in order for you to have good emotional and psychological self-care. By practicing emotional self-care, is being able to process your feelings and understand your feelings so you know exactly what's going on inside. Now, I'm not saying process your feelings in order for you to make decisions based off of your feelings. That's a really important tip. When you make decisions, they should never be based on your feelings. Your feelings change all the time. They're not reliable. One second you could be happy, the next you could be sad, you get mad really easily. So making sure that you process your feelings, know what the cause of the feeling is, process the feelings, Then once you do that, it allows you to clear up your mind to then make a decision based on logic, based on a clear mind rather than an emotional mind. So by processing your feelings, you're able to practice self-care, understand yourself better, and make better decisions with a clear mind. Part of what also helps with emotional and psychological self-care is that you're able to be more kind towards yourself. We are our own worst critic, but if we learn to like ourselves, if we learn to accept our mistakes and really enjoy who we are as a person, we tend to become more kind. And by doing that, you reduce the stress and anxiety that you have whenever you make the smallest mistake. Generally, by practicing appropriate mental and psychological self-care, you're able to create a balanced lifestyle, create better boundaries, and in a way decrease that mental load you have of your own expectations, because they're no longer expectations, they're more like responsibilities and goals. Which, if you frame things differently, if the way you talk to yourself really just does change the way you think about yourself. So instead of saying, oh, I expect this from myself, rather than this is a responsibility, this is a goal I have, your motivation, your view of your daily tasks will be different, and you will approach them differently, and the way you feel about your own life will be much different. So making sure you practice good psychological and emotional self-care. Number 3 is your spiritual self-care. And this, I think, is the one that you ignore the most. And I think most people do this because it really takes extra effort to feed into your spiritual self-care. Now, spiritual self-care, doesn't have to be your religion, your beliefs in faith. It doesn't have to be that. Now, it could be, and many people practice their spiritual self-care in that way, but that's not for everybody. So it doesn't have to be in that way. Spiritual self-care is something that you do in order to feed into that inner part of you that is passionate, that has purpose, that has a reason to do why they're doing it. Something bigger than yourself. It takes you away from your own view of your own problems, your own perspective of the world, into a bigger perspective that creates purpose in your life. So if you don't have purpose, if you haven't figured that out, then you have to do some self-actualization, some self-exploration in order to do that. Because if you don't have any spiritual self-care, then your own problems will always be the biggest problems, and things can be a little selfish. When you look at people who are happy, most of them practice some type of spiritual self-care, whether it's yoga, whether it's meditation, prayer, going to church, doing something bigger than yourself. Most of them do that because they have a better perspective of the world. And when you do, it's not all about you. By practicing some self-exploration and clarifying your values and your priorities, you're going to be able to really hone in and zone into your own beliefs and your own spirituality. It creates your why, it creates your purpose, and in turn creates the driving force for everything you do. So when you do something, when you go to work, when you wake up in the morning, practicing your daily, journaling and things like that, it's because you have a driving force that's pushing you to do these things that you don't want to wake up at 6 in the morning to journal. But you have a driving force that's pushing you to do this because you know that this is practicing a good self-care routine in order for you to be there for others and to help others and be there for your family and serve them. So really understanding what your purpose is, what drives you, helps you create a better life. So spiritual self-care is probably the most important but the most ignored. So now that you've heard this video, it's now your responsibility to practice spiritual self-care, and really do some soul searching, some self-exploration. So those are the 3 parts of self-care that you have to work on in order for you to have a happy life, a balanced life, and an enjoyable life. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you know someone that might find value in this video, please share it. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!